I'm Riley,
And I'm Ronnie,
and this is the Plan to Eat podcast.
where we have conversations about meal planning, food, and wellness to help you answer the question, what's for dinner? Hello, welcome back to the Plan to Eat podcast. Today, Riley and I are continuing our Meal Plan Like a Pro series. If you haven't listened to the last two episodes, go check those out. We talk about some more beginner meal planning tips, and then last time we talked about a little more advanced meal planning tips. And today we're talking about building your very own plug and play meal planning system.
This is one that I tried out this summer, so I'm excited to talk about this and the different ways that you can create a plug and play system that works for your needs, your preferences, and honestly, how you prefer to plan.
Yeah. Basically, just creating something that's repeatable so that you can take some of the decision fatigue out of meal planning and make it a little more automated. If you're not somebody who loves planning, I think this plug and play idea that we're going to talk about today is something that can be really helpful.
Yes, because it does that exact thing you just said, which is it automates it, which when you automate things that you hate, it helps.
It
Honestly,
does.
sometimes for me, let's get into meal planning templates, with theme nights, but for me, just having that tiny bit of a suggestion gives me more ideas than I could literally cook any recipe in the whole world, any cuisine category, any type, any flavor profile, any country. And so that's a lot, right? You can get overwhelmed by that. So if you have a template, it just gives me a direction to go in sometimes. If I even ask my husband, I'm like, what kind of food do you want to eat this week? And he's like, we haven't had pasta in a while. I'm like, cool, I can pasta. So just gives you something to go on.
Yeah. And so we've talked about this, I think, in maybe both of the last two episodes talking about our Meal Planning Like a Pro series. We've at least just mentioned it. But the idea is you create a template and you assign each night of the week or however many nights of the week you want to plan with some sort of a theme. And the themes can be, our cute alliterations like Taco Tuesdays and Salad Sundays,
Fishy Fridays.
Fishy Fridays. Even though I don't eat very much fish, I just like a Fishy Friday as an alliteration. And so it could be things like that. You could also choose just different cuisines. So you could say Monday, we're going to have Mexican food. Thursday, we're going to have Italian food, etc. So basically whatever you want to do. I've seen things online where people are just like, tonight's a quick and easy night. Tonight's a new recipe night. Tonight's a family favorite. It's literally whatever you want to give the title for your themes. It's whatever you want. Yeah, I think we've also seen people
who,
are we going to say the same thing? Who do a protein as their theme? Yeah, I feel like we saw that when we asked customers maybe for their meal planning tips.
I think so. I was going to say that people use family members' names.
Oh, yeah.
Daughter number one gets to, fill in they pick dinner tonight. And then maybe the primary cook is cooking it, but that person picks that dinner. So then you kind of put it onto the one person. Everyone has some buy-in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. So again, we're talking about some of the benefits of this are your decision fatigue is gone. You just, can put your template onto your meal plan, and then you can swap around recipes every week, based off of whatever your theme is. So I think a good tip for this is that when you're deciding on your theme nights, think about what the rhythm of your week is. So it's if you always know you have stuff on Wednesdays, then make Wednesday the quick and easy night. And again, you don't have to plan every single night of the week. I think a lot of the time when you see the theme nights, every single night of the week is given a different theme. But as we've talked about before, I don't plan every night of the week. You don't plan every night of the week.
No.
So I don't think that needs to be the case here. And in addition to that, you could also plan one of your themes to be leftovers, takeout, go out to a restaurant. That could be your theme for the night.
Yeah, I made Wednesdays, Wild Wednesdays.
Ooh.
And it was literally whatever you could find in the fridge. So if that meant you ate leftovers, great. If that meant you had a sandwich, because that's what you wanted, cool. You made a salad out of the vegetables that were there. It was just kind of a choose your own adventure situation, but we called it Wild Wednesday.
I like that. I feel like I'd be eating cereal a lot.
I mean, more power to you.
Not because I'm I kind of like cereal.
I don't eat a lot of cereal, but I would eat probably breakfast for dinner. If I had to just Nothing to go on. Like, that would be what I would just go with.
Right.
Yeah, that's easy. I like that. So,
But that could be one of your themes.
yeah, it is. So the cons to this kind of meal planning, which I kind of found this summer, is that it can get a little boring.
Mm.
Unless you're really stretching the bounds of your theme nights, it can get a little boring. I'll tell you what mine were from this year. All right, so we had sandwich night, wild Wednesdays, freezer night, which just meant I pulled something out of the freezer to make the meal around.
Mm.
Fancy Friday, which was I actually put, like, it was more than a 15-minute dinner. It was, I really tried. Maybe it was a new recipe. And then Saturday was 15-minute dinner night. So those really lived in juxtaposition. But it did, I mean, I did just find myself making a lot of the same things. And sandwich night, I got pretty creative on. We were having French dips and Philly cheesesteaks and like pesto turkey sandwiches and grilled cheese. And like, there's a million sandwich options. But I found myself straying away from it after a few weeks just because I kind of didn't like the confines of it. And also I was getting a little bored. So I did like it for the season I was in when I needed it, but it did get a little boring.
Yeah, I could see how that would be the case. If this is something that you're into, it might be a good idea to have a couple different template options,
Yes.
and so instead of every single week you're reusing the same template, maybe it's like you switch things up and you have one that's based off of different cuisines and another that's based off
Mm.
of your fun alliterations or whatever. As a Plan to Eat user, menus are a great way to make this possible. You can literally just create a menu that includes a note on each night of the week that you want to have your theme, your little template. So, and you could do it for week by week. You could also create a full month of this. And then after your menu is made, it's just super easy to drag and drop it onto your planner. And then you have all those notes on your days of the week. So that way, when you go to create your meal plan, you're like, oh, yeah, we're going to do a sandwich tonight. And let's figure out what that sandwich is going to be.
Yep. Menus really does make it super helpful. So if you are a Plain Tea customer, you really should hop in there and test out menus if you never have. And then honestly, this entire episode today can be based around the feature of menus
Hmm.
because you can create just like we're about to talk about, which is more of like a capsule planning. You can literally just create menus that you use over and over again, and that's your capsule. Like I just have 3 months worth of recipes planned, and then I just rotate them through. 3 months is a pretty quality amount of time, actually, to have pre-made menus.
Yeah,
And then you wouldn't get bored of them because you just alternate them 3 or 4
hmm
times a year. But we can keep going with that. Menus is hugely helpful if you use Plan to Eat.
absolutely. Yeah, so the second idea I want to talk about, as Riley mentioned, is this capsule meal planning. Maybe you could also call it like a rotating recipe situation. Kind of think like a capsule wardrobe if you've ever thought about that, where you basically limit the number of things that you are using. So like I think a capsule wardrobe, it's like you only own like 4 pairs of pants and 6 shirts, and all of those things like go together in like a mix and match sort of a thing. But the point of it is to reduce again the number of decisions you're making. So you're like, cool, I'm gonna wear jeans and a black shirt. That's the outfit, rather than being like, I have 17 different black shirts that I could wear. Which one am I gonna wear? That's great for some people. Other people like simplicity, because sometimes more options isn't always better. Sometimes it's stress relieving to have fewer options.
Mhm. So there are a couple of ways you can do this with food, meal planning in the capsule wardrobe kind of mentality. And we had a customer contact us and say that they liked this capsule planning idea, but there seemed to be two types, ingredient led and recipe led. So let's talk through the pros and cons of a recipe led capsule. I keep wanting to say capsule wardrobe, capsule planning versus ingredient led capsule planning.
So when I think of ingredient led, recipe led to me feels pretty self explanatory, right? Like you
Yeah.
have recipes. Ingredient led to me feels kind of like you're building a plate around specific ingredients. It's like you could think of the US government my plate situation. I was thinking about something like a Whole30, where like you're working within the constraints of a specific diet, which like gives
Mhm.
you like, here are your acceptable ingredients that you can eat. And like building a plate around that. Um, I don't, is that how you thought of it, Riley?
It's not, but the more you're explaining it, That's way more simple than what I was thinking.
Oh.
So I was thinking that it was a bit more complicated to be an ingredient-led capsule meal planning person. Um, because I was imagining that you kind of like bought the same ingredients every week. Like we
Oh.
always have chicken, pasta, rice, ground beef, and green beans. I mean, obviously they'd be more than that. And then you created different recipes based on those things. So you
Mm.
have Asian stir fry green beans with chicken and rice, and then you have Italian green beans with some kind of pasta. Like, so I was kind of thinking about it that way and thinking, wow, that feels really complicated. Or like kind of like primarily cooking from like maybe a very well stocked pantry.
Mhm.
Um, which can be a great way to meal plan, which we'll talk about more in a little bit. Like if you do have a really well stocked pantry, it can be really good, but it's also you're really leaning heavy on a lot of canned goods. You're leaning heavy on a lot of packaged things, like things that have a very long or an expiration date a long time from now.
Mhm.
Um, or potentially things like CSA, like you get a box of vegetables and like that is the confines of what you are eating that week, which
Yeah.
we've heard from a lot of people that meal planning from a CSA, while wonderful because it's fresh and exciting because you never know what's going to be in it, can be a little tricky because then you have to pivot really quickly. Like, I thought I was going to have an eggplant, but I only have spaghetti squash. What am I going
Mhm.
to do with this instead? So I was thinking about it a little more complicated than you were, but I really like your idea of meal planning around something like Whole30 because having like I'm thinking about a taped list on the front of my fridge that just like gives me some direction. That does feel a little bit easier than just kind of like, I only have these 5 things. It's more like you've got 50 things you could choose from that you are allowed to eat.
Yeah, I mean, it could probably be either. I'm not totally sure. When I tried to look up more about this on the internet, I actually found the idea of capsule meal prep, which is literally our idea that you like make a big batch of like shredded chicken,
Yeah.
pork, beef, and then you turn it into 5 different recipes during the week. So we have a term for it now, which is called capsule meal prep. Uh, so I don't know exactly which option the ingredient led capsule meal planning refers to, but I am actually thinking I'm not leaning towards one side or the other, actually. I'm like feel very squarely in the middle of like it could be that it's based off of something like a Whole30 where you have a list of specific
Mhm.
things, or I'm thinking about kind of I think it was the idea that you mentioned very first, which is like you just create the exact same meal plan every single week, which could mean that you make the same recipes every week.
Mhm.
Maybe you're somebody who doesn't care that much about it. Or then you're, like you said, you're then forced to try and think outside the box with your like 25 items that you normally buy.
This feels like something that's going to be very specific person to person.
Oh, yeah.
Like, just because I think ingredient led feels complicated, honestly, I probably do it more than I realize that I do it. But especially if you're someone who's following, we get these questions a lot. Especially if you're someone following a very rigid, like nutritional approach, like Whole
Mhm.
30 or like an AIP protocol, or maybe you just have a lot of food allergies, or you're trying something totally different for healing purposes. Like, uh, planning this way is really necessary
Mhm.
because you really are working with, I can't just find some recipe on the internet. I have to work with what I know I can eat. So the getting creative with that can probably be tricky, but also it's like, at least you're starting with something you know you can eat. I know a lot of people when they first tackle a new diet type, they get really overwhelmed with like the can't instead of
Mhm.
the can. Like there's a like the I can eat this versus the I can't eat this.
Mhm.
Um, I feel like starting with that ingredient list and being like, "I can eat this," is a much better approach than, "I can't eat anything anymore."
Yeah. However, I could also see that still feeling a little discouraging if you're like, "Cool, I can eat these 30 things, but what recipes do I make with them?" If that's not, your strong suit, is being able to be creative or do that no recipe
Mhm.
cooking situation. You know, that's kind of what this is a little bit too, is like that no recipe situation, because in that
Yeah,
book, didn't they have like a whole list of here's what we would stock our pantry with in order
yep,
to make any of these no recipe recipes.
yep.
So yeah, I guess that's kind of the idea.
And it's
So then
potentially a more expensive option too.
it could be, yeah.
because you're buying a lot of things not knowing what you're going to do with them, which then you run the risk of, will this go bad before I cook it?
Mhm.
What if I forget I have this? Or, you buy some expensive ingredient
Yeah.
and then it just gets pushed to the back of your pantry and you're like, oh, I really was going to use that.
Yeah, or like we talked about last time, but like specialty items that you'd buy
Yeah.
at the grocery store that you're like, "I only need this for one recipe. How am I gonna use it in other stuff?"
Yeah. Yeah.
So then the other option is the recipe-led capsule meal plan. I almost said wardrobe as well, which is basically that you start with a smaller selection of recipes. So I talked about this with a Planty customer. Her name is Diana Rice on episode 86 of the Planty podcast. And she's a coach and she helps people like adopt this capsule style of meal plan through Plan to Eat. And so basically her idea is you only have like 30 recipes in your Plan to Eat account. So you start your Plan to Eat account, you import only like your 30 favorite recipes, and then you mix and match those recipes week to week. It reduces the decision fatigue because you're not looking at a recipe book of 2,000 recipes to try and decide what we're going to eat. But you're not ever really feeling like you're stuck in a rut because 30 recipes is enough to like create enough variety
Hmm.
basically in the meal plan.
Well, and if you've been following along with this series, we've really never said like plan 7 nights of dinner
Right.
every week, right? Like we've never really said that. Like we've said out of the next 10 days, plan 7 nights, but we
Yeah.
didn't say like plan all 30 to 31 day, I guess 29 to 31 days of the month every month. And so those 30 recipes are going to last you longer than a month, which is really helpful. You're really not going to get tired of them unless you just hit on that one that you love over and
Yeah.
over and over again, which I would definitely be guilty of.
I have been guilty of that too. You know, that chicken meatball recipe that
Oh,
I
yeah.
found a couple of years ago, we still eat it every once in a while. But when I
Hmm.
first discovered it, we were eating it once a week. So,
Yes.
yeah. And not that we like dislike it, but we just don't need to eat it as often anymore.
Yeah. I mean, you and I have talked about this on the podcast too, which is that we get into ruts. We're rut
We
people.
do. We do. So I know, Riley, you have some ideas for how to make this happen in your account. Or in your Plan to Eat account specifically. I personally like to use the queue for this type of planning. So I would say this is actually the style of planning that I do. I just don't have my entire Plan to Eat account set up this way because I didn't start my Plan to Eat account with this in mind.
Hmm.
So like I just import lots of recipes at random and I really struggle to delete recipes. I hold on to them even though I have like 2,000 recipes in my account. There's no way I'm ever
Same.
going to make all of them.
Hmm.
But I always keep approximately like 20 like main course recipes in my queue, and they're typically like our family favorite recipes, and seasonally I rotate them out. So like in the winter there's a few more like soups, roasts, those kinds of things in there. Summer it's more like salads, uh pasta salad, cold dishes,
Hmm.
and that's I basically only plan from my queue. So I kind of do this. It just looks different than maybe how somebody who like set up their whole Plan to Eat account would use it.
Yeah. Well, and I just want to say to all of the Planty customers who listen to our podcast, because I'm guessing there's mostly Planty customers, don't panic that if you're trying to adopt a new way of meal planning, don't panic that you only have, she says only have 30 and you have 400.
Right.
Because, like Ronnie said, there's different ways you can do this. You don't just have to delete everything you have and start from scratch, though you can do that. Like Ronnie said, she uses the queue. I use my categories for this. So I have a category in my account that is family favorites. And if we like it, I add it there.
Yeah.
So it's really helpful for me especially when I'm really stuck. I just go to that category and I'm like, oh, we haven't had that in a while. We really like that. I know everyone likes it. It's just something we haven't made in a while. And then another feature that you may not know about is that you can collapse categories so that they are like closed. So you're not viewing 2,000 or 400 or however many recipes you have all at the same time. You can just look at one category and have that open. So if that's got 20 in it, 30 in it, that's all you're looking at.
So because Plan to Eat has so many ways to be able to categorize your recipes, I feel like you could do this in multiple ways. So not just like a course, but you could use tags, you could use your main ingredients, you could use your
Mhm.
cuisines.
Yeah.
Basically, any of the ways that you can categorize your recipes, I feel like would make this really simple. And then being able to just search within those things. The more that you can make your search detailed, I think the easier it
Yeah.
is because it just shrinks your results and gives you a lot less things to choose from.
Yeah. I mean, my way of putting everything into a family favorites category is not gonna work for everybody because it is everything, right? Like I
Right.
am not specifying breakfast, lunch, or dinner or, protein type or anything like that. It just is something I started doing and then it just became a habit for me. So I just like doing it like that. So, but it's not gonna be for everybody.
Yeah. All right. And finally, we want to talk about planning with food you already have on hand or at home. One thing that you can do related to this, I know that this is what I guess we would consider like reverse meal planning, you know? So instead of choosing your recipes first and then purchasing the ingredients, you're looking at your ingredients first and then deciding recipes. So one thing you can do is literally just make a list of what you have at home, what needs to be used up soon, particularly things in your refrigerator, and then just get kind of creative. You could use this same theme night idea to give you some guidance.
Mhm.
So you could say like, what do I have that would be good in tacos? Or what do we have that's a good pizza toppings? What do I have that works in like a pasta bake? Cause I have a bunch of extra pasta, but like, what else do we do to make it interesting? Or like, what lingering ingredients do we have that work with like an Asian dish or Indian food?
Mhm.
And yeah, I would say just kind of use those ideas to guide you in this process. I think the hardest part about this process of planning for food you already have at home is just having that like I could cook any recipe in the entire world and I don't know what to do.
Yeah. Everything you're saying makes me just want to talk about
Yeah.
anchors.
Uh-huh.
Um, like if you're feeling overwhelmed with this style of meal planning, maybe because it's like a crazy night and you're like, oh, we have to eat dinner. I forgot to plan. We don't have anything planned. And you're just like staring at a pantry or a fridge full of ingredients. Pick one thing. Okay,
Yeah.
this chicken needs to be cooked. Let's eat this chicken. What will go with it? Or I've got lots of boxes of pasta. How do we end up with so many? Let's have something with pasta. And just like pick something to start with.
Yeah.
I think would be really helpful with this and then build around it. And then if you pivot completely while you have, digging through your things you have at home, maybe because you found like I don't know, I'm thinking of like those like Kevin's brand sauce packets. Like I end up keeping those in my pantry. Like there's like a teriyaki one, there's like an orange sauce. Like I'm just thinking like if I was going with pasta, but then I found that I might pivot fully and
Mhm.
like, okay, I'm gonna make this. I've got this sauce. I don't have to come up with sauce ingredients. I've got this. But just picking that one thing as your anchor can really help you feel less overwhelmed with this
Mhm.
process.
Yeah, that's a great tip. Again, in Plan to Eat, an easy way to accomplish this, planning with what you already have at home is on the website. We have the with ingredients filter where you can type in all of the ingredients that you currently have, or maybe just like the 5 ingredients that you really need to use up right now. And then it's going to give you recipes that have those ingredients in there. And then it'll also tell you, if you're lacking 2 ingredients, 7 ingredients, whatever. So that way, if you do then go to the grocery store, like, oh, I only need a couple things to make
Mhm.
this recipe happen. So I think that that's super helpful.
Ronnie, you and I did this one time. Do you remember when we planned, like, we literally only made meal plans around what we had on hand
Yeah.
for a whole week because we were trying to spend as little at the grocery store as possible.
Hmm.
So if you are someone who has a well-stocked pantry and you are trying to save money at the grocery store, this is like the most brilliant way, I think, to plan, like, to use up what you've got at home, like, use up what you've already paid for. Those are not free
Yeah.
groceries, you've already paid for them. And so using that with ingredients filter to say, "Okay, I've got these 6 things. I've got this recipe in my account. I need to buy 2 things," means you're gonna spend, like I remember when we did this and we were spending, like, $40 to $60 at the grocery store a week instead of,
Yeah.
like, 140 at the grocery store per week.
Yeah.
So it can really make a big impact. I would say this is another really helpful way to like do like the FIFO method. Like go and find what you already that's the oldest in your pantry. Use that first because it was the first in, first FIFO is first in, first out. So use the food you maybe accidentally hoarding in your pantry, because
Yeah.
if you're like me, things just get pushed to the back. And I so often have to go in and rearrange. So the things that I bought first come to the front and the things that I bought last go to the back. So it's just a really helpful way to meal plan with that and like with that method. And it saves you a lot of money.
This is a great tactic if you are like end of the month
Yeah.
and you have like 1 week left, but you're really close to like blowing your grocery budget, you know?
Hmm.
I think just getting really creative with what's in your cupboards, in your refrigerator, in your freezer, and doing that kind of idea of like, we're just going to make recipes with the things that we have. And maybe they're not that interesting. Maybe they're kind of boring.
Hmm.
But, I think we've all, okay, number one of the things that I think we've all done is like gone on some diet and then you like buy some weird, like, I don't know. The thing that came to mind was like a keto cookie mix. Like that's not dinner, right? But like that idea, right? Like, oh, I
Hmm.
bought this like keto pasta or something, but then I did keto for like 3 days and I didn't continue to do it. But I still have this
Hmm.
pasta in the back of the pantry. Like I think that we all have done these things where we've like went off the rails in the past and bought things that then we had no plan for. And so when you're tightening up on the budget, now is the time to just figure out how to use these things. And it might not be your most award-winning dinner, but it's okay.
Yep. It's just food. Some nights it's just eating because you're hungry and eating because like you're
Yeah.
eating to survive. You're not eating to like thrive.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I had a friend one time tell me she made like a chicken parmesan, like chicken bake with like her kids' chicken dino nuggets
Nice.
because that's what she had. I'm like, boom, you used it, right?
Yeah.
So I went to visit my in-laws over the summer and did this meal planning with what they already had on hand. I surprised them. They didn't know I was coming, which is not like super abnormal for us with them in particular. But while I was there, I wanted to prep them some food to have in their freezer. Just with some of the things that they have going on in their life, they just needed some food pre-made that they could just heat up between surgeries and rehabs and things like that, you know? And so just trying to make that season easier for them. So I went to their very well-stocked pantry and just started looking at what they had. They also had, I'm trying to think about how much basil they had growing in their backyard, but let's go with like a kitchen island. Every inch of it was covered, like so much basil, so much basil. So we made some homemade pesto. So we had tons of pesto. I was looking at what they had and some spaghetti sauce, spaghetti noodles, or lasagna noodles. They had refried beans, enchilada sauce. And so with what they had, so I went through with what they had on hand and made a meal plan of things that I knew would freeze really well. So we ended up making enchiladas, lasagna, breakfast casserole, a rice chicken bake, and breakfast sandwiches. I think there was one other thing, but it's not coming to mind. We ended up making them like 44 servings of food to go in their freezer. And I only spent like $35 at the grocery store to make those meals because everything else they had on hand. But I was personally, I do this, right? Like I do this at my own house. I talk about this on this podcast. I talk about this with people in my world. And I was still very surprised that we got that much food out of their pantry stock, and like with just that little purchased at the grocery store. But I was really impressed with it. And it just really shows you how much money you can save if you go through and actually use what you've already purchased and build a meal plan around that. I try to do this like once a week, or sorry, once a month at my house where I'm like, let's meal plan around what we already have. And it really just helps that budget. If like, even if it's just 1 week out of the month, it really does kind of relieve your budget a little bit.
Hmm.
Yeah.
There's an element of this where I'm thinking this would actually be easier to do at somebody else's house
Oh,
than
yeah.
at my own, right? Because I basically have a little bit of like a mental inventory of the things that I have in my pantry. And but I'm thinking I could go to somebody else's house and be like, "Oh, look at all these things that they have," and like, really spin up some recipes.
Yeah. Yeah. You definitely do look at somebody else's pantry with different eyes than you look at your own.
Yeah.
So you're right. It probably is easier, but maybe that is an idea. Because we're always telling people to have meal planning friends where they say, hey, I don't know what to eat for dinner. Tell me, like, what's something you had? maybe that is where you like go to somebody else's house and you're like, could you just tell me what you see that I could make out of this? Or send somebody a picture. Hey, here's what I have. Tell me what I can make with it. That'd be kind
Yeah,
of fun.
that would be fun.
It's a game.
I think there's an element to this that I wanted to mention, which is that if you feel like you're somebody who is consistently having too many things left over at your house, like in your pantry and your cupboards, I think it's a good idea. It's something that we talk about a lot, which is to shop at home first before you go to the grocery store. So, make your grocery list in Plantee and then go around your kitchen, fridge, cupboards, all the things, and check out the things you already have so that you're not double buying stuff that you already own. This is going to save you money. And it's just going to help make sure that, by the end of the month, you're not like, wow, we really do need to go through the cupboards because we have a bunch of extra stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I tend to have a very well-stocked pantry for many reasons. One of them is because I live a long way from town. And so those like pantry staple meals, I keep a few of them because if what we have for dinner doesn't sound good to anybody, we pivot. But like we're not pivoting by going to get takeout because we live too far from town for that. But also sometimes if I plan meals that don't get eaten, those ingredients go into the pantry, right? Because they just that's where they lived before. I didn't cook them. And so I end up with a bunch of extras. Occasionally, it's because I buy things that were like on like a super sale, like, buy 4 cans for $1 or whatever. Or if I bought canned goods at Costco, I very rarely do that because I don't need that many of anything. But if I do, because maybe something was on sale that we do eat, I'll end up with it. But so then my pantry ends up getting full, like, and
Yeah.
I mean, do you think that I'm like the only one, or do you think other people end up with pantries like that? Like, what do you think?
No, I bet a lot of people do, just simply for exactly what you said. Like something goes on sale and, maybe you only need 1 can of black beans, but the sale is to, like you said, buy 4 cans of black beans. I have a feeling I am this way. And so I think other people are this way. I have a really hard time not doing the sale option.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would think that probably happens
Well,
to a lot of other people.
that is the marketing tactic, that they
Yeah.
want you to buy the thing, right?
Yeah.
I just know that for a long time, if it's okay that I share this, like you had a very minimal pantry. Like
Yeah.
your pantry space was very minimal. So like I know that when we've talked about this in the past, like this was not something that you did quite as much as I did. And so
Yeah.
I'm just curious about what other people's experiences are.
I'm going to say most people, if they have the room in their kitchen, they probably have more food than they use. I'm
Yeah.
currently adjusting feel like I'm
Mhm.
currently adjusting myself to being like, oh, it's okay to buy it's okay to buy the sale thing and buy all of the things that are on sale,
Yeah.
or to like keep a couple frozen pizzas around or whatever because we actually have the space for it now compared to what we used to.
Yeah.
So,
That's great.
but also I think that if you're somebody who like lives in Manhattan in like a shoebox apartment, you probably
Yeah.
don't. You probably don't have space for extra things. You've got your condiments and that's it.
Yeah. You're right. Which is a very different life than I live because I
Yeah.
can't walk to a market,
Right.
which just sounds very fun if you ask me. But
All right, should we move on to some dinner dilemmas?
let's do it.
All right. All right. So I wouldn't necessarily say this is a dinner dilemma, but I know we do want to address this.
Mhm.
Scott says the price of the app. I guess that could be kind of a dinner dilemma. So Plan to Eat is $49 for a year. It's $5.95 monthly if you want to subscribe monthly. And, we charge for our app simply because we do have a team of people who work on it to update it and make it better. We're consistently adding features and fixing bugs. And in order to make all of those things possible, like we kind of have to have revenue coming in.
We are a customer driven, like we're not investor driven. Like
Right.
we are customer driven. So like we actually respond to your emails, a real person. You respond to your emails when you email us. If you have ideas or feedback, we really do take that into consideration. And this is something probably that's like a little bit lesser known, but if you download a free app, you are actually the product. They are selling your data. You become how they make money. With our app, we do not sell data. And so we do charge for the app because like Ronnie said, we have people who are running it, who are creating it, developing it, maintaining it, talking to you as a customer. And so we aren't selling data. And so we charge the app because that's how we make money.
Yeah. The end.
Yeah. And if you break down $49, if you divide that by 12, it's only $4.08 per month. So it's pretty inexpensive. I mean, it's less than the coffee that I bought at a drive-through coffee place the other day.
Yeah. And really, I think that when we talk about like our statistics of when you use Plan to Eat to create your meal plan,
Mm-hmm.
average cost savings is like 23% at a grocery trip. So
Mm-hmm.
just in like one grocery trip, you could potentially save the cost of your annual
Yeah.
subscription to Plan to Eat, because a lot of times you're saving $50 really easily just
Yeah.
by shopping smart, shopping with a plan, making sure you're buying things that actually go with recipes. So I think that it's really hard because everything is a subscription nowadays, and we totally
Yes.
recognize that there is
Yeah.
subscription fatigue. But unlike streaming services or games or whatever that you might have a subscription to, something like Planty actually can help get you back money.
Mm-hmm.
There is a eventual cost savings there that I think is sometimes overlooked.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know if this is an appropriate time to mention this or not, but we also have an amazing referral program.
Yeah.
So if you share Planty with friends, they save money and you make money. And you can also earn back the subscription fee crazy fast
Yeah, for sure.
just by sharing it with a few friends.
That's a
Yeah.
great
And it's
point.
something that really helps you.
That's a great point.
Yeah. So it can save you money and make you money in a lot of ways.
There you go. I'll make sure I link to more info about the referral program in the show notes if you guys need more info.
Awesome. All right. The next one is from Amy. Planning meals that are high in protein and fiber and also healthy and delicious. Bonus points if things can be prepped or made in advance on the weekend. Tall order, I know. She added that.
Yeah.
Or this person added that.
Well, I don't know that I have any specific recipes off the top of my head that are high protein, high fiber. I think that my number one suggestion when you're struggling with what recipes to plan is to like find some favorite bloggers, find some favorite content creators on Instagram who make these kinds of recipes
Mhm.
that you can quickly save and then add to your meal plan in Plan to Eat, because I I just think that's the easiest. I just think that's the easiest thing. I wouldn't say that this is not how I eat. However, I don't know that I feel qualified to just like rattle off recipes off the top of my head that meet these requirements.
Yeah. It would probably be really helpful to, honestly, this is probably a really helpful way to like go start with ingredients. This is that ingredient capsule. So making a list of foods that are high in protein and then a list of foods that are high in fiber and then just incorporating those into your meal plan. So, I mean, like we could both rattle off things that are high in protein, but Greek yogurt, eggs, like meat proteins,
Mm,
lentils. Those are things like, those are all things that are high in protein. Fiber would also be lentils, kiwi, avocados, chia seeds, beans and legumes. A lot of vegetables are high in fiber. Go ahead.
mhm.
Is
Oh, I was
that what
gonna
you're going
say
to say?
like oats and grains, high in
Oats and
fiber.
grains.
Mhm.
Potatoes are really high in fiber. And so, like, and you asked if it could be made or prepped in advance. A lot of high fiber vegetables, like think root vegetables, white potatoes, red potato, sweet potatoes. Those are things that hold up super well all week.
Mhm.
If you were to prep a big batch of that on the weekend, cauliflower, like those things roast and they'll hold up super well all week. And then the same thing, we've talked about this quite a bit on the podcast, but prepping a lot of protein in advance, like grilling a bunch of things like on a Saturday or Sunday and then having them all week is a super helpful thing to get. And then this kind of accomplishes both tasks.
Yeah, doing that capsule meal prep.
Yeah. But then also thinking something, thinking like, okay, well, we've had chicken and sweet potatoes this week, but what else? Like, thinking like a taco bowl with guacamole on it because avocados are super high in fiber, and then like some kind of ground meat. That could be chicken, turkey, or beef. Any protein would go great on that. And then maybe on a cauliflower rice. Like all those things are things that you can just hold up in your fridge all week and just like make for yourself.
Yeah, that's a great tip. I like it. Okay, D says, I have a toddler and a baby, so I only get to meal prep in about 10-minute chunks. Sometimes the naps will align so I can get a bit more time, but it's not a given. My husband and I are trying to focus on healthy and inexpensive meals that can be prepped quickly and then frozen. Dinner time is ideally around 5:30 p.m., and the hour before that is usually crazy, so it's very helpful if a prepped dinner can just be put in the oven or is already in the crock pot. I'm having trouble finding freezer meals that are healthy, quick, and budget friendly, which also taste good, and not all of them taste alike. Then, once I found those recipes, I'm struggling with how to actually get them all prepped and frozen with very, very limited time. We appreciate any advice.
I just want to give her a hug.
I feel like you've been here, Riley.
Oh, I am her. I'm just kidding. I didn't add this. Yeah. Okay. This is a lot to take in, but it's actually not like I would say it's actually like less complicated to solve
Yeah.
this problem. One of the ways, one of my immediate ideas, and I know that the hour before dinner is crazy, but just doubling your recipe and freezing half of whatever you made that day, it's going to add up really quickly. Like I do this so I know for sure that it is very little extra work and it really does add up. Like I suddenly end up with 4 or 5 dishes in my freezer without doing anything extra. And honestly, it's not very expensive extra either. Like maybe it's an extra pack of pasta or like an extra cup of rice and then just, like I'm thinking like I often freeze chicken teriyaki with a lot of, and you can make that with frozen vegetables, which is inexpensive. So that's just an idea. Chicken teriyaki, some kind of enchilada, like I freeze a lot. And if like the health concern, like if you're like, I don't know what your preferences are when it comes to health and nutrition. So it's hard for me to speak to that because you just said healthy, quick, and budget friendly. And healthy is very different for every person. But I am gluten free. And so one of the ways that I make enchiladas is with the siete almond flour tortillas. And it's just like really good and it freezes really well. I don't know if you're like, I don't know if flour tortillas, corn tortillas, I don't know what your health preferences are. So it's hard to speak to that. Another thing that you could potentially do is on a weekend, spend some time if you have an hour. Now, I know life's crazy and you probably don't have an hour, but if you have reinforcements on a weekend, one of the things that you can do is put all the ingredients for a crock pot meal into one Ziploc bag. And then
Yeah.
that way, either you put them in your fridge to be used during the week or you put them in your freezer to be used later. And I would include whatever goes into your crock pot. Like if you're making a soup, put all the soup ingredients. If you're making a pork roast, put all the pork roast ingredients. Like just freeze the whole thing and then dump into your crock pot. And then that can be done for sure in 10 minutes in the
Yeah.
morning, maybe even before your kids get up.
I think that there's actually like
Yeah.
a whole section of the internet.
Mm-hmm.
That
There
sounds
is.
funny. Whole section of the internet around what's called dump dinners, which is this
Yeah.
idea that Riley just mentioned. I hate that terminology,
Sounds
but
gross. Yeah.
it kind of sounds gross. But that's exactly what these are, is that you can prep them in so little time. I bet you could prep 5 of these dump dinners in your 10-minute chunk.
Mm-hmm.
They're really simple because also the part of it is meant to be inexpensive because you're buying your things more in bulk and then you're separating it into 5 different dinners. 4 of them go into the freezer and then one of them's the one you're going to make tomorrow
Mm-hmm.
in your crock pot or something like that.
Yeah. What is the name of that blogger that used to make Budget Bites? Budget
Oh
Bites.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so all of her meals are broken down by like how much every ingredient costs. And she's got a ton of under $10 dinners, one pot meals, slow cooker things. So just to specifically speak to the budget aspect, and honestly, a ton of her stuff is super healthy. So I would recommend Budget Bites to you also as a website to find a lot of meals, a lot of meal options at a really great price.
Yeah, that's a great tip. All right. Well, I think that wraps us up for today. In 2 weeks, we will be back tackling another topic in our Meal Plan Like a Pro series. So hope you tune into that. And if you want to support the Plant Eat podcast, the best way to do that is to share an episode with a friend or family member. The more people that listen to the podcast, the more we get boosted into the podcast algorithms and they decide that they like us.
It sounds crazy, but it's how it works.
It's how it works. Thanks again for listening, and we will talk to you again in 2 weeks.